It's something new that we haven't done in the past. So we're actually asking some of our allied members, sponsors, to come up and just give a very brief introduction of themselves and some of what they do. And the idea behind this is to give everybody in the audience an idea of who each other are, but also for farmers to kind of take some ideas away from here, and also maybe give you a couple people to connect with later on today and tomorrow and through the conference. So with that being said, we're just going to keep rolling through there. Everybody has 2 minutes. We're going to try and keep them on time as quickly as we can.
The reason I'm back working is that Elanco came to me and said we would like to maybe do some things in the turkey industry. We had some people leave. Things happen in the company over time. And so they came to me and they had some people that retired, some people left the company, different things like that. We found out that we just didn't have as many people that were basic in the turkey industry as we would like to have. So my goal, I just started with them a little over a month ago. My goal is across the country to bring our efforts in the turkey industry up. You guys have had great representation here with Brent Swanson. Brent's out here somewhere. There he is. And Brent and I will continue to work together on stuff here in the upper Midwest, and we'll be identifying people across the country. So I wanted to get that out there first. That's really going to be one of my overriding goals in this. From the standpoint of what we do at Elanco, we have basically 3 groups in the poultry business unit. We have our tech and sales teams that work on our products that are basically feed additives, vaccines, bioprotection products, things like that. We have a nutritional health group that's kind of being reorganized right now that works on things like enzymes, probiotics, things like that. And of course we are cross-functional, we work with one another. And something brand new, and one of the reasons I was kind of intrigued about coming to work for Elanco, is we're in the process right now of putting together a food safety group within the poultry business unit that will pull together a cadre of people that have expertise in a lot of different areas that can help support our customers in their food safety initiatives, from all the way from the hatchery, hopefully, to the consumer. And we think that is something that is really needed in the industry. And of course, those people, as being part of our poultry business unit, will be working with the rest of us and our customers in a teamwork type of situation. So, but anyway, that's kind of what we're doing. One of the things we're trying to kick off, we're putting a little bit of a real emphasis on a program we're calling Salmonella 360. And somebody reminded me the other day, we're not 360 yet, but that's our goal, is to get to the point where if we're working with an account on salmonella control, that we can work with you, like I said, from the hatchery all the way to the consumer on the other end. So if you have any questions about Elanco products, Brent will answer those. He's more up to date on some of that stuff than I am, at least at this point, but we'll try to help you with any way we can with that kind of stuff. Okay? Thank you.
Good afternoon. I know most of the faces in this room. I'm Justin Larson. I've been working in the poultry industry for about 20 years. Was with SIVA Vaccines for about 13 years and a couple of animal health industries, and then joined Novus International 3 years ago. So Novus International, I work for them on pigs and poultry in the upper Midwest, mainly Minnesota and the Dakotas. I live in Detroit Lakes. So Novus International is a nutritional solutions company. We mainly focus on amino acids, organic acids, minerals, antioxidants, and some specialty products like direct-fed microbials, enzymes, and whatnot. So we work with all the main larger producers and some of you smaller producers as well. You probably recognize our most common product is Alamet or methionine that a lot of you guys utilize. So I'm going to keep mine pretty quick and simple, and that was it. I'll be here all week. Not doing any entertainment, but I'll be here all week. Thank you very much.
Hi. Can I do this, or does this? Well, it's 5 minutes, so I can handle it. Thanks for having us here today. I think I speak on the other great faculty who are here as well, that we're really honored and excited to be here today. I'm going to spend my 5 minutes, first of all, going really quickly because I wanted to get through a lot, but also sort of trying to give a bit of an overview of what we work on in the Noise Lab, which is the lab that we have at the University of Minnesota. Before I jump into that, I do want to just give you a little bit of background about myself and our team. We just I just started at University of Minnesota actually almost exactly a year ago, so we're pretty new to the system and to the state. I'm actually from a small town in upstate New York in dairy country, and at the age of 18 left there, had a couple of different sort of career paths before I saw the light and decided that I wanted to become a veterinarian and a scientist. And so I enrolled at the Colorado State University veterinary program, and it was a combined DVM PhD program. And in that program, I focused actually mostly on beef feedlot cattle, and focused on trying to get a more comprehensive understanding of antibiotic resistance within those large feedlot production systems in North America, primarily Canada and the US. And so I was there for 8 years, and then was very happy to receive an offer to join the AGREET program and the University of Minnesota and the College of Veterinary Medicine. So that's where I ended up last summer. And we're really continuing that work with a large focus on antibiotic use and resistance within livestock production. We've also expanded into other areas of research, and if you go to the website, which I've put here, you can see sort of an overview of the different areas of research, which span everything from whole genome sequencing of food-borne pathogens, like Salmonella and E. coli, and doing sort of big data analysis on those types of data, all the way to microbiome work in different livestock production systems, and then, of course, to antibiotic resistance. So I would really encourage you to take a look at that website, because I won't be able to cover everything in 5 minutes. What I do want to talk about is antibiotic resistance and our approach to it. So you hear this phrase a lot, that antimicrobial resistance, or AMR, is complex, and we totally agree with this statement. And really, this statement just makes us actually excited, because complex issues are really challenging and fun to work on. And actually, I believe that scientists now have the tools to actually tackle some of this complexity, and we didn't necessarily have those tools until very recently. And the reason resistance, I think, is very complex is because there's actually multiple layers of complexity. And so we think about complexity at the systems level, which you all in this room are intimately familiar with, and then we also think about layers of complexity at the microbial level. So at the systems level, we often talk about antibiotic use and where antibiotics are used within our society, and that includes, of course, human hospitals, livestock production systems. We use them in our companion animals, aquaculture, even some crops. So these are sort of like discrete things that we think about when we think about antibiotic use. But if you really want to get a handle on this issue, you actually need to take a look at how antibiotic use within these confined areas can promote resistance across different dissemination pathways. And so then it becomes complex. And so you all know as producers that you are part of a larger ecosystem, and within that ecosystem there are all sorts of multi-directional interactions. You know, we often think of things flowing, all of the poop happens in animals and flows downwards, but things actually go the other way too, right? So this is a multi-directional system, and this complexity is really important when we're talking about resistance, to not be constrained to thinking in just one little sphere or one little pathway. And so this is what we try to do at the systems level. And then at the microbial level, we have often thought about resistance in terms of single pathogens or single bacterial species. And while it's important to think about resistance in those pathogens, we now know, of course, that the microbial ecosystem is much more complex. So this is a pie chart that we generated from one fecal sample from a feedlot steer, and we identified over 1,000 bacterial species within that single fecal sample. And so bacteria are just such crazy organisms that they can exchange their DNA and their resistance genes very easily, much more easily than we can as humans. And so we really need to understand how the bacteria are exchanging resistance genes to understand how resistance is evolving, say, within a flock or within a herd. And so this is really where we put a lot of our emphasis, is trying to understand this complexity. And so what we do in our group at Minnesota is that we really try to combine epidemiology, so that more complex systems level thinking, with the microbial ecology, which is the microbiome and all of the bacteria and the way that they're interacting with each other. And we try to put the livestock production lens on top of that. So how can we bring our expertise about how these livestock production systems, how we work within them, and how that impacts this complexity. And so again, I've worked a lot with the beef feedlot industry and somewhat with dairy and swine. I have much less poultry experience, so I'm really happy to be here, and mostly what I want to do tonight is sort of listen and learn from all of you about how what we do can maybe complement some of the things that are going on or some of the questions that you have as an industry. I will really briefly talk about one example that we've done where we've used this sort of more high-level approach, and the only reason I can really talk about this today is because I have very generous and supportive collaborators at Minnesota, Tim Johnson and Randy Singer, who did most of this work and then have brought me on to do a specific portion, which is called the Resistome. So that's the all of the resistance genes that you find across the entire microbial community. And the thing that's really interesting about this study is that we see some of the same basic patterns that we've seen in beef feedlot production, dairy production, and swine production, which is that you really have to contextualize these results within the system that you're working in, and every system has its own unique characteristics. And you really have to look at the entire microbial community, not just a single pathogen, to get that comprehensive view. And it's not just about antimicrobial use or AMU. So what we've seen over and over now across multiple production systems is that things like age of the animal, phase of production, flock cycle, etc. Those things actually have a big impact on the resistance profiles that you see in these microbial populations, and that impact sometimes overwhelms even antimicrobial use practices that might be being used in that particular group of animals. And so we think that we need to take a larger perspective if we're really trying to get a handle on antimicrobial resistance. And so with that, it was really fast 5 minutes, so I will be here tonight, and I really would love to talk to people in the audience who might have more questions or be interested in some of this work. And these are some of the funders and collaborators that we're currently working with across multiple sectors. So thanks.
Hello, I'm Bruce Lindquist. CFS, as it's known on the program, is Camlin Fine Sciences. I'm the business director for the Animal and Health Division of Camlin Fine Sciences. Camlin at its core is a producer of two synthetic antioxidants, TBHQ and BHA. We are in the business of helping to protect your turkey's gut health and immune system from feeding oxidative stressed feed ingredients. So what we do is offer products that you apply to your fats and oils, and even to your vitamin trace mineral premixes to protect those fat-soluble vitamins. I'm here today to kick off a program in the turkey industry in Minnesota. It's the Camlin Quality Assurance for Fats and Oils. So that program consists of allowing our lab to do analytical work on your fats and oils as it arrives, and then look at it sometime later in the tank to see what oxidative stresses may be occurring there. So anybody that's interested in talking more about that, you can catch me anytime during the meeting, and I'll keep it short so we can get back on time. So, thank you.
Hello. My name is Saad. I'm in Wilmar at the Minnesota Poultry Testing Lab. We are a branch of the Veterinary Diagnostic Laboratory from St. Paul, Minnesota. So I will talk about three different issues. First, I'm announcing the new test that we have at MPTL, which is water biofilm testing in turkey houses, and also I'm going over the testing that we can do at MPTL. And third thing, the last thing, I will conclude with reminding you of how important it is to have a diagnostic lab that's capable of doing multiple things. So the new test is the Drinker-Biofilm Testing, and we can do this for influenza and other agents. This procedure was developed by Dr. Cardona's group, and it's being run at McCrock. This procedure detects avian influenza in turkey flocks at least 1 day before tracheal swabs become positive. So it enables us for early detection of the infection. So it's not only used for influenza, but we can use it for mycoplasma and avian metapneumovirus. So this procedure makes it possible to test a small number of samples that belong to a large population. And by doing this, it improves the sensitivity and it decreases the cost of detection if you are looking for an agent. The biofilm in the drinker is the organic material or the slimy material that's being exchanged between the turkeys and the drinker wall. The requirements, or it doesn't need a really trained personnel to take the sample. It's just a piece of gauze and a Wirral pack. You wipe the drinker and then you put it in the Wirral pack. Depending on the size of the barn, you may need to increase this, but usually you collect 3 pools of samples, 2 at both ends and 1 in the middle, and then each pool of Wirral pack you can gather 5 swabs of 5 different drinkers in the same bag. The detailed procedure can be provided to you, so I'm not going to go over this. MPTL will offer influenza PCR testing Monday through Friday. If samples were delivered to us by 9:00 a.m., you will have results the same day. Now I'm going over the additional testing that we have at MPTL. We have PCR for other agents. We do PCR for all mycoplasmas, MG, MM, MS, and Mycoplasma iowa. We do Newcastle, avian metanemovirus, turkey reovirus or viral arthritis. We do enteric viruses such as rotavirus, astrovirus, and reovirus. We do serology, and recently we have compiled those serological testing into what we called panels. So you buy the panel, it's a combo, you get multiple tests at a discounted price. We noticed that it made it easier for some of our clients, especially if they send people that are not familiar with the test. They only have to remember the name of the panel, which include, for example, turkey panel number 1, which is the one before the last, includes Newcastle, Bordetella avium, hemorrhagic enteritis, and ORT. So companies get familiar with these panels, and they usually pick something at different age for their either vaccine evaluation, immunity after vaccination, or for the disease diagnostics. Other testing we do at MPTL, we do necropsy, and I will get to that later on a little bit. We do bacterial isolation for almost any kind of bacteria that is pathogenic for turkeys. We do virus isolation. We do fecal flotation for parasites, for coccidia, for example. And we do toxicological screening. So if there is any toxicosis suspected, we can screen for specific agents. And my last slide, I just wanted to remind the people in this room how important it is to have a functioning diagnostic lab that not only can measure things that you are interested in, but if you have undetermined disease or condition, we can help you investigate this condition, whether it is infectious or toxicology or deficiency or even management. So it's very important to have a diagnostic lab that you can rely on in the state. Thank you very much.
I'm Brad Kelly. I live in Spicer, Minnesota. Been in this business 40 years this year, so it's been a long time, 33 years in sales and customer service. I'm a distributor rep. You might say, well, what does a distributor rep have that's different than another distributor rep? Product knowledge, I guess, the right product at the right time. I'm with a very good-sized animal health distributor called Animal Health International. Animal Health International is owned by a public company in St. Paul called the Patterson Companies, which is human dental distribution, and they bought Animal Health here about 10 years ago. So I'm with a publicly held company. Never thought I would be, but I am. So that's life. My specialty is poultry and swine. We distribute, Animal Health International distributes hundreds of vendors. We have over 70,000 different SKUs in our system. It's a lot to manage and take care of and have available when you need it. Just to give you a quick snapshot, antibiotics and antibiotic alternatives, hygiene for farm and hatchery, and water, personal protection equipment, boots, gloves, coveralls, etc., insecticides, rodenticides, dewormers, feed additives, vitamins, nutritional products, water additives, waterline cleaners, disinfectants, acidifiers, vaccines. The key is in distribution, the right product at the right time. So if you need any help with anything, if you're looking for anything, I've never been opposed to telling somebody where to get something if I don't have it available as well. So thanks for your interest and time. I'll be around.
I'm Greg Veldman with Evonik. I've been in this industry for 25 years, been with Evonik for 7. Evonik is a company based out of Germany that's in the fine chemical business, probably the biggest business that they're in. We have a animal health and nutrition division that's based in Kennesaw, Georgia. Our main products are methionine, which we just finished building our 6th plant in Singapore. So we'll be the largest deomethionine producer in the world, by far, really. And then we have lysine, threonine, tryptophan, and we've gotten into the probiotics business as well. So thank you very much. Have a great afternoon.
So my name is Peter Larson. I'm also a new Agreed faculty member. I joined the University of Minnesota last August. Thank you to Steve and y'all for inviting me to come and speak today. I'm really excited to be here. We're launching this really interesting project that looks at the interface between rodents and poultry, and that's what I'm going to talk with you about today. A little more about myself, though. Because I'm an Agreed faculty member, the projects in my lab look at critical issues facing agriculture in the state of Minnesota. I operate under the One Health umbrella, meaning I'm looking at agriculture, livestock, poultry, swine, wildlife. I'm really interested in the wildlife component of this One Health triangle, but then also human health. And so the projects in my lab are diverse. They're sort of listed there as a smatter at the bottom of the page there. I started off my career basically as a wildlife biologist. I was trained to capture rats and bats, and it was after being bitten quite literally by hundreds of bats that I became interested in emerging infectious disease. And so this is an area that I'm excited about. I think it's an open area of research here in Minnesota. This issue of the rodent-poultry interface is really important. Every time that you see a mouse or a rat on your farm or in your barn, you need to think of that animal as a Salmonella amplifier, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I want to help the Minnesota poultry industry improve biosecurity issues focused on wildlife, especially small mammals like rodents, and there are just a ton of research projects that we can get into. This is an area of research for whatever reason. I haven't seen much in Minnesota. The literature on rodents and how they transmit pathogens to poultry is rich. It goes way back into the 70s, and there's been a lot of work in Europe, but for whatever reason, not much here. So this is why I'm excited about this area to look at. If you think about a mouse or a rat, many of us think it's just one kind, right? There's just one mouse, it's small, dark brown looking thing. The reality is that there's diversity here in Minnesota, and that's important. How many species do you think of a rat or a mouse are here? The answer is about 17, maybe more. And that diversity is really important because if there are certain species that are associated with your farm, those species can have different pathogens associated with them. There are 5 major players that form this rodent-turkey interface in Minnesota. I'm listing those species here. And so, many of us are familiar with the big Norway rats. I grew up on a small farm in South Dakota, so I understand these issues. If you see a big rat, it's probably that Norway rat. But if you see what you think is a mouse, that could be one of those 4 other species there. So, why is this important to foodborne pathogens? Why is this important to the poultry industry? All of these pathogens listed there are associated with wild rodent reservoirs, hosts, right? These are the big players that I think many of y'all are concerned about. On that list is Salmonella, multiple serotypes associated with wild rodents. You have to think about rodents as Salmonella amplifiers. So this is well documented in the literature. It takes 15 individual Salmonella cells to infect a mouse or a rat. One mouse fecal pellet can contain 230,000 Salmonella cells in one mouse fecal pellet. One mouse in one barn for a day can output 23 million Salmonella bacteria into that environment. This is one mouse, one day. All right? Rodents avoid poison baits. I was at a dairy farm last week. They said, we're putting all these baits out, poison baits. The rodents are just ignoring them. They're not eating them at all. And that farm had a rodent problem, a big rodent problem. And so these are smart animals. You can't treat this just like you would as a normal exterminator issue. You have to approach it from a scientific standpoint. I approach it as a mammologist, so you have to think like a rodent. These are smart creatures, okay? There are multiple Salmonella serotypes identified in wild rodents. There's just a smattering here from the literature. Poultry will actively seek out and consume fecal pellets. So think about little fecal pellets as Salmonella bombs, right? They'll go out and feed those. Every morning when I let my dog out to eat, the first thing she does to go out into the yard, first thing she does is go and find deer pellets or rabbit pellets, right? This is what animals do, and poultry are no different. If you have an outbreak of pathogen X and you remove that flock and you clean that barn, that rodent population's still there, right? So you bring birds back in, what's a constant? That rodent population is. There's emerging data discussing rodents as possible vectors for avian influenza. The Norway rat paper to the bottom right there just came out a couple weeks ago. Rodents will feed on wild bird carcasses. They'll go into the barn. They can transmit AI into that barn environment. Turkeys, chickens, they will eat rodents, right? We know they're omnivores, right? They'll eat a dead mouse. So emerging data suggests AI can replicate within rodent pests, and that's an issue that I don't think many of us have considered. There's been a lot of work done on birds and that connection, but we need to think about these small mammals too. It just so happens that Minnesota poultry industry is within this area of enhanced rodent-borne zoonoses. I don't have time to get in the nuts and bolts in this, but all the warm colors on that map show areas that are predicted hotspots for rodent zoonotic disease. Southwestern Minnesota is part of that, and it gets into ecology, the prairie. So there's a diverse rodent system going on there. We need to think about rodent biosecurity measures. What species are interacting with the turkeys that you're producing? That matters. That matters because those species of rodents can carry different things. How is that influenced by ag? Think about the rail system. Think about highways. These mice are being moved around, and we can talk more about that later today if you'd like. What pathogens are they carrying? Are there antimicrobial resistant strains? So I work with emerging genomic tools just like Noel does, and we're going to attack this rodent-poultry interface using all those cutting-edge tools. Annie Jahan is a new PhD student in my lab. She's a microbiologist. She has all the skills to look at growing up cultures of E. coli, salmonella, whatnot. Laramie Lindsay is this fantastic postdoc, a mammologist. She knows how to go out and catch rats and bats just like I do. She's also a genomicist. My email is there if you want to talk more about this. Let's get in touch. I know this is a sensitive issue. I know it's a sensitive issue. I'll say it again. And I'm willing to navigate that carefully with you all. Thank you.
I'm Terry Conroy. I'm with Avian. I'm the Vice President of Data Analytics and Sales. Avian is actually Avian Turkeys is actually two different things. We have an Avian Turkeys Incorporated and an Avian Turkeys Limited. So in the U.S., we're the Incorporated, and in England and Europe, it is the Limited. So my boss is Jihad Douglas, and over there, it would be Clay Burrows. Clay is a whole lot easier to get through an airport, than Jihad is. It's much faster. But so what's nice about having the two sides is that we have replication for everything that we do. So there's a Rob Walker for us, there's a Rob Walker for them. There's a Paige Glover, our geneticist for us. There's John Ralph, the geneticist for them over in Europe. So they take care of the BUT bird, and we take care of the selects, and we have some BUTs over here now currently. But what's really nice is we have the duplication, the replication of the people, so that if we want to use them to bring them over here with ideas, we can do it. And if they want us to go over there, we can do that also. So other than, there's replication except for me. There's only just one of me, so I have to do their stuff too. And I have a son that's going to retire from the Marines in 2 months. Gunnery sergeant, been in 20 years, And places I go to, he says I go to fourth world regions of third world countries. So there are people that do raise turkeys in those areas, and I'll get a phone call from somebody somewhere and say, can you come into the plant? We want to see, want you to work on grade and condemnation. So I'll go to the plant, and first thing I usually should ask this before I leave, but I'll say, okay, how many birds do you kill a day? They say 1,000. I'm going, okay, 1,000. How long does that take you? Oh, 8 hours. So it's a different world than here in the United States, but they provide turkeys to the people that want them. So that's it. I'm here a week. Oh, and I live south of here, across the road, on the Good Lake.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here today and to meet all of you in the turkey industry here in Minnesota. I originally hail from Saskatchewan, Canada, so I'm one of the few probably in the room that can say they moved south for the weather, which is finally nice. But I'm part of the Bioproducts Biosystems Engineering Department and one of the agreed hires. I started close to 2 years ago myself. So what I wanted to share with you today is a bit of background on my engineering approach to sustainable animal systems and a quick overview of a project that I have going on right now related to the turkey industry. So my approach, my engineering approach starts in the barn where I look at the environment surrounding the birds, but then also other species. So that environment includes that thermal environment or the climate control, gas levels, but then also some of that, the extent of that pathogen load in the environment as well, and how biosecurity can influence the birds. And then the birds or the other animals influence the environment. So it's that feedback loop that I'm particularly interested in. So poultry is part of my wheelhouse, but then I also work with dairy systems, swine systems, and beef cattle systems. So what happens in the barn then influences what happens outside the barn. So part of my work is relating what happens in the barn to outside through manure, through gas emissions. Odor impacts is a pretty big part of my extension program as well. This impacts the natural resource communities, as well as the people communities surrounding our operations. So in the community, what I deal with when it comes to the environment can often be a topic of debate, let's say, in society, particularly odor. These were 3 articles that came out within 1 month of each other. So I feel my role in extension is to help provide a common starting point for conversation that's based in science. So odor impact estimation is a tool that's been around for many years, started by my predecessor, Larry Jacobson. But it's a type of science-based tool that we can use to at least put people on a common starting point for discussion. It's not up to me to evaluate where and when livestock operations should be sited, but can we start from a common starting point about where that odor impact, for example, is. Similar conversations happen around manure. But through extension, over the last number of years, prior to this, I was at South Dakota State University. I've gained an appreciation for these different learning styles that we have in different communities, different sets of people, including youth. And so looking at the different ways that people learn, trying different learning techniques in my extension program is also interests me. Which leads me into the project that I'm currently working on that is related to poultry and turkeys in particular. This was supported through the Minnesota Department of Ag funding for the response to avian influenza. And what I'm looking at is simulation-based demonstration and education of how pathogens move around a farm or different types of operations. So together with Abby and Sally, Kevin Yanni, and Chuck Clanton, we've developed 2 games. One is a rice-based game. I am an expert at dyeing rice now. That's my kitchen table and about 8 different colors of rice. But what we do with this rice game is different workers, different parts of the barn are different pools of rice. In one of those pools are a couple grains of wild rice. As we move around a barn, as we swap particles between workers, between barns, between workers and maybe a mortality management area. What is the risk of moving one of those wild rice particles onto the worker? What's the risk of moving one of those wild rice particles into the barn? So this is the concept of the game, and by taking people through scenarios, we can look at how do particles move in and amongst all these different places on a farm. This is all well and good, but that takes a lot of rice to do, and a lot of dying rice. So we have also put together a computer-based simulation for this, so that we can take this education a step further. Once we get the concept of this pathogen transmission risk, the computer-based simulations add some repetition and also adaptability. We can look at variable settings for how people move through a barn, for example, or where things on a barn are located, number and types of barns and workers that there are. We don't know for a lot of viruses or pathogens what is that contamination load or what's that critical contamination load, but we can play around with it in the program and test different levels as well. So this is a project that we started about a year ago and we'll continue working on for the next couple of years, next year at least, with Abby's help in particular. So with my work looking at sustainable livestock systems, what is the only thing constant is change. What is sustainable? That our definition of that, I think we're continually trying to set new baselines for ourselves and for our industry. Keeping those in mind, how do we keep moving forward? That's where I work. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeff McDowell. I look after the hybrid turkeys business here in the United States as well as Canada, South America, and Central America. Joined the company about 16 months ago, so there aren't a lot of familiar faces in the room for me, but hopefully over the next few days I'll get to know some of you. Talking a little bit about what hybrid does, I think most of you know we're a primary breeding company. We have such leading products such as the hybrid converter, which is the most widely used turkey in the world, and that's our mainstream product that you see in North America. We also have other products including traditional or what we call alternative products such as the Orlop Bronze, which is another product that fits more niche markets, and more smaller processors are looking at those particular niche products to find ways to increase their differentiation in the marketplace and therefore also sell at a higher price. We recently did a substantial expansion within the United States. The company's been very busy over the last couple of years. We spent almost $70 million building 2 hatcheries, one a commercial hatchery and one parent stock hatchery. We've also constructed 6 corporate farm sites for laying eggs, and those are located in South Dakota. We also have purchased 15 new trailers to deliver product to all our customers throughout the Midwest. And we've also contracted a number of new egg producers as well to help supply our commercial hatchery system as well. So again, this has been about a $70 million project and quite a substantial effort for a company that was historically always in primary breeding and made a foray into the commercial poult business. But in addition to the turkeys and the modern distribution system I've talked a little bit about, we also have a superior global team that supports all of our customers around the world. And I always encourage everyone, if there's ever any questions or concerns, we have an excellent website, but we also have a lot of folks here as well to help and answer your questions. I'll let you know who's here. We have Trevor Aitchison, who looks after our sales and supply chain, Peter Gruhl, who looks after technical support and global business, Tanner Evans, also within our sales group, and Owen Willems, our Director of Research and Development. Speaking of Owen will make a presentation tomorrow. He's asked me to give this plug, and it's at 10:50. It'll be in this room or the room next door, I'm not sure which room. It's titled Turkey Genetics, Where It Is At and Where It Is Going. So I'm sure it's something not to be missed. So we're very happy to be here to also celebrate MTGA's 80th anniversary, and we look forward to spending some time with you over the coming days. Thank you very much.
My name is Mark Gillis. I'm a regional sales manager for QC Supply for poultry. I've been doing this for over 41 years, and 50 if you count when my dad was making me put equipment in. They didn't want to pay me much for it, but We have 31 stores running from Louisiana to Minnesota. We have stores in Nebraska, Alabama, Arkansas, Louisiana, 6 in Iowa, Indiana, 2 in Minnesota, Mississippi, Missouri, Kentucky, North and South Carolina, Oklahoma, and Tennessee. We're a multi-vendor company with a wide variety of equipment available. We have over 1,200 vendors that we buy from. We can pretty much say that anything you need, we can probably get it for you. We work with local and national builders, and we also offer turnkey projects. We do have catalog sales with internet sales at qcsupply.com. If you're not getting a catalog and you want one, let me know and make sure you get one. We many years of experience in the sales and service of turkey production equipment. We've got a full line of cleaning and disinfectants, a full line of biosecurity products. We have Lewis Brothers tillers and tillers and house cleaners. Our main suppliers are Ziggity, Plason, Diversified, AP Cumberland, Valco, Multifan, Munters, Big Dutchman, Space Ray, PW Air, Lubing, Once Innovations, Scove, and Maximus. Our salespeople in Minnesota are Tim Poost, you guys have probably met Tim, and Scott Nichols, both out of the Wilmer store. We also have Dave Asmus out of their Waseca, Minnesota store. Don Sherwood is our branch manager, and he's probably one of the best guys you ever want to talk to about equipment installation and how it should go together and operate. I just want to thank all of the growers out there who have allowed myself and my family and QC Supply to do business with them, and look forward to continuing doing that. And that's all I got.
Georgia Poultry is a sole subsidiary of Hog Slack Incorporated. We are a international company. We've got operations in Europe and I think it's 6 continents or 6 countries overseas. Here in the States, we're located in the home bases in Clinton, North Carolina, warehouses in Clinton and in Humboldt, Iowa. We have over 100 retail stores. The newest one here is in Sauk Center, Minnesota. And I don't see Randy here. Randy Anderson is our store manager there. So he'll be around here throughout the week. So stop in and say hi to him and just get acquainted. We are a supplier, turnkey construction, as well as retros, equipment supplier, biosecurity products, just a one-stop shop. So I'll be around here the rest of the week, so stop. If you see me around and want some more information, please pull me aside. I'll be glad to visit with you. Thank you.
Well, it's great to be here this afternoon. I've been involved in the Minnesota turkey industry for 40 years, starting out in production, and the last 17 and a half years as one of the owners of Best Veterinary Solutions, which has been a great business for us. We've got a lot of great people working for us, from salespeople to veterinarians in the field. Our mission is to provide solutions to our customers for the challenges that they have. We've been involved in a lot of research over the years, and not only vetting our own products, but other suppliers of ours that we distribute for their products. We have relationships with Dr. Tim Johnson at the University of Minnesota, where we've done several collaborative studies and evaluating products, and along with universities, Virginia Tech, Arkansas, North Carolina, Penn State, and we've got 6 locations across the U.S. besides Wilmer, Ellsworth, Iowa, Washington, Indiana, Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, Millsboro, Delaware, and our newest location in Franklinville, North Carolina, along with distribution partners in the Southeast and West Coast. We have 2 full-time veterinarians on staff, Dr. Megan Slater and Dr. Corey Steinling. At our Pennsylvania location, we do pretty much all the vet work for the turkey and broiler and commercial egg layers in the state of Pennsylvania, along with some work in the Virginias and the Delmarva Shore. Can say that I am the proud employer of John Menges, and he's a full-time handful to manage, and which is why we had to hire a full-time HR person last year. So I like to kid him about that. But anyway, it's been a great industry for us to be involved in. We have two blending facilities in the U.S., one in Wilmer, and a new one that we built 3 years ago in Ellsworth, Iowa. All of our facilities are also HACCP and food safe certified, and which is important in the age that we live in today. So again, I appreciate the business that we do with everyone in the audience here. And it's been a great industry for us, and it's been good to us, and we appreciate all of you guys. Thanks.